Hello! My name is Bisa, and welcome back again to the Pokémon Corundum Dev Diary. Last time we left off having reworked Petalburg into an actual city, at least to some degree. I also didn't post the public dev build test signups as I promised. Genuinely sorry about that, but that wait is now over. This time the link to the sign up form is actually down in the description, and I also added it to the last video, so if you want to play Pokémon Corundum early and give some important feedback, go fill it out and join the Discord server so you'll know the moment you get in and the test goes live. But as I also promised, before we get into today's time-lapse, let's have a revised look at how to handle HMs. Now, my suggested solution was to make slave HMs completely optional, which, as many people pointed out, is the absolute bare minimum to discourage HM slave usage, and is highly questionable in its effectiveness. However, I also mentioned that I wanted to try and use this entirely optional nature to see if I could make use of them for balancing the content locked behind the usage of HMs. I should have focused on this point much more because I feel it kinda got lost in the conversation, but I don't mind, because I think what I've come up with instead is a great compromise between a lot of different ways HMs are commonly dealt with. A common suggestion is to allow any Pokémon of any certain type to use the field moves of that type. So for example, any normal Pokémon could use Cut, Flash, and Strength in the field once the player unlocks the usage of the prerequisite HM. This, I think, is a bit too far, as normal flying, fighting, and water types are often particularly common and easy to get one's hands on, causing this to be an effective removal of teachable HMs for any reason outside of battle, which is the entire point for the mechanic's existence, and one that I believe is important to keep around, especially in the Hoenn games, where resourcefulness and growing and living alongside Pokémon is a core theme. So I have come up with two solutions. The first one is that I will be rebalancing all three slave HMs to be more viable in combat. While these are going to take a while to really figure out, here's a first iteration of these buffs. Cut will be changed to be a slightly inferior bug-type alternative to Slash, being boosted to the same 70 base power and 100% accuracy. However, not gaining its raised crit ratio and in turn getting 25 PP down from 30 over Slash's 20. Bug types are usually resigned to falling behind the growth curve pretty quickly, rarely making them a good choice starting as soon as the mid-game, and these earlier generations have some iffy learn sets. So, while I might change something about those in particular, I hope that giving the player an endless supply of an at least decent stab bug-type move is a good start to help with this problem. Rock Smash, meanwhile, is just a joke. Even with its 100% accuracy and 50% chance to drop defense, 20 base power for 15 PP just ain't it. Even the buff to 40 base power it received in Gen 4 isn't really enough for me, but raising it even further to justify the move's relatively low PP could make it a bit too strong in conjunction with a defense drop. So instead, I'm powering the move up less, to 30 base power. However, I am also making the defense drop guaranteed, essentially making Rock Smash an offensive mid-game upgrade to Tail Whip or Leer, the main point in the game where it's going to be used most until post-game. As for Flash, pure status moves are a bitch to work with and make worth using, so for this one I took a pretty aggressive approach. Like its buff in Gen 4, Flash will now be 100% accurate instead of having a 30% chance of missing. However, while I know that RNG mechanics aren't the most popular, I still wanted to keep the dice roll aspect of the move intact. So instead of being a surefire accuracy drop, Flash now offers a 90% chance to drop accuracy alongside a whopping 50% chance, making it the highest in the game, to flinch. While this does mean it technically still has a chance to miss, as in having no effect, I believe setting it up in such a big risk-reward kind of way means that at the very least it gives the HM slave you'll inevitably end up with a niche use case in battles, and if nothing else, I can see this make for some hilarious last resort plays, though I also don't want it to be too cheesy. The dev builds are definitely going to be the main way to figure this one out, especially on the go. Now for the time being, this is going to be the way that I am approaching Slave HMs and how they are going to be in the dev build, alongside making Dive and Waterfall act as replacement for Surf in the field, as the 3 water HMs are in fact a bit ridiculous. I'm really hesitant to remove HMs outright, since they're a pretty important feature of Pokemon games of this time, and I want to stay relatively faithful. If these changes aren't enough, however, I do have a way more radical plan B that gives up the classic HM system for something more freeform and open, hopefully without giving up the aspects of team management, growth, and harmony with both your Pokemon and nature that HMs are meant to emphasize, particularly in this game. But let's take a step back from all of that and get to actually doing things. So, for this week's time-lapse, as promised, let's work out the southern half of Route 104. I started recording late for this, so the rough layout expansion of the map is already done as we start. For this map, the idea was to emphasize the feel of a lively yet calm coastal area. A place where you can feel the sea breeze caress the firm land you and the civilization surrounding you still stand on. Think of taking a walk along Britain's southern cliffs or through Borkum's dunes, and marry it with the image of a deep, serene Canadian or German forest. This is actually quite a common type of terrain on subtropical and tropical island chains, and southern Japan is no exception. Last time we talked about effective usage of screen space, and you might already be wondering what the hell I'm doing here now, as the coastal area here takes up a bigger slice relative to the beach than the original, and despite adding a couple of new features, particularly to use that space, it's a lot more open as well. As immersion is one of my main goals of this hack, I did this particularly to enhance that coastline feeling. I also made the elevation changes from Petalburg and further inland more shallow, with the beach having a shallow water area, and Petalburg's cliff replacing the original ledge leading from Petalburg Woods, with the ledge itself being retained to contain a little backwoods track that will house a trainer and item reward. These kinds of areas are already all over Hoenn, and I will be adding a ton more of these, even another one on this map, connecting it to the back of the larger southern lake in Petalburg. I also added what will be another ranger outpost to the north side of the route, displacing the berry planting tiles here to fill in the side of the Petalburg cliff. The beach is currently missing a lot of decorations, but here I want to place just a handful of beach chairs and parasols from Slateport around Mr. Briny's place, once I get around to making those graphics, to make the area just feel a little more lived in. And, well, frankly, that's already all of it, surprisingly. Honestly, the majority of the process of creating this map has been working out how to make the coastal, sea, and cliff areas work, and how to sensically connect them to the existing parts of the game world. And while the current product is obviously unfinished, they work as placeholders, and we'll be taking a look at the northern half of the route next time to help fill in the blanks and pave the way to making all of this stuff look genuinely good. But that's all I have for today. Let me know what you thought about all of this in the comments, and if you liked it, do just that while you're down there, so I know what you want to see more of. Next week is going to be very busy between the holidays, which means that while there won't be a full video, I will be streaming again. So if you want to join me in creating the north half of Route 104 yourself, make sure to subscribe, and maybe consider becoming a channel member, which includes access to the dev builds. Thank you all so very much for watching, and until next time, have a good one!